I'm Steve Doyle. Straight up front, I'm not a public speaker. I imagine this is going to be short, so get out early today. I normally don't do stuff like this, but a friend of my dad's was actually visiting, and he was asking about it, and I was telling him, and he says, "You really should share it." And I said, "Sure, but it's been in the back of my mind. It's been working, and so I can't get up here and say that I'm 100%. Nobody tells you that you go to the visit the doctors, do all that stuff. Nobody tells you about the recovery process. You get all the warnings, all the concerns, and this is what we're going to do. But there's hardly any mention of recovery process at all. Different things. I mean, I've broken arms and legs and, 4 or 6 weeks, whatever. When they mess in your head, it's a little bit longer, a lot longer. But I will say, God has been with me through the whole thing. And it's interesting. I mean, I'm not a spring chicken. I'm 61 years old. I've been around for a little while. It's interesting how God works. And you see movies or presentations where God shows up in a vision and does amazing things. Hasn't really worked that way in my life. A big lot of it, God has showed up through people, his people mostly. I mean, he will use others, but and a huge amount of it came from this group right here. So I'm going to start, and hopefully I keep it straight. I did have a brain tumor, and it does affect things a little bit. So I want to try to keep it straight. So I have notes, and if I get off track, I apologize in advance. But I'm going to go way back, just give you a short, brief history of my life. And I'm going to go back to 1956. Vincent Thomas Doyle. I use his full name because Dad is a junior. So depending on who you're around, some people call him Vincent, some people call him Thomas. And before VT was a thing, that was also one of the names he is called is VT for Vincent Thomas, not Virginia Tech. And but in 1956, Vincent Thomas Doyle and Shirley Doyle went on a blind date. They were from this area, Roanoke, Salem area. And things pursued on. 1957, they were married. Dad worked at GE, and I don't know, a lot of you may be too young to remember, but back in the day, they used to have long strikes, and it was rough on people. Dad put in applications everywhere, and he got a response from NASA in Florida, and he ended up being offered a position and accepted it there. So him and Mom packed up and off to Florida they went. Got a house, did the normal young married thing, wanted to start a family. Well, things didn't really work out. They were not able to get pregnant. So they looked into adoption. Back then, everything went through social services. There was no private adoption things and stuff like that. And it was a chore. I mean, they had to go through a lot of interviews together. They separated them. They had to do a lot of individual interviews. They came to the house and researched everything and checked them to see if they would be okay parents. And after going through all that, they were approved. So June 22nd, 1964, I was born. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. 14 days later, I was delivered to them in Merritt Island, Florida. And apparently I wasn't too rough on them because 3 years later, they did it again. And I have a little sister, Sharon. We were a normal family. One thing, though, was Mom and Dad were Christians. So God has been a part of my life from the very beginning, the way I look at it. not because of anything that I did, because of what they did. So when we were in Florida, we went to church at First Baptist of Merritt Island. It was a pretty good-sized church, and at the time I didn't realize it, but Adrian Rogers was our pastor for a while, and he went on to lead the Southern Baptist. I mean, he was an amazing man, but I was fairly young. The one thing I remember about him, he used to bang on the pulpit a lot to make a point. I don't know why that stuck with me, but it did. So I've had a lot of influence over the years. We were the normal young family. The only thing really different about us was when vacation time came, we didn't go to the beach. We came to the mountains. Came up to Virginia because all my family is in this area. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, all that stuff. So between, and I think it was mostly my parents' influence more than the church, but I had a lot of influence in a great environment. So when I was 8, I accepted Christ. Things went well, but you do that with an 8-year-old mind. You know, it got into high school, and I was open more than I probably should have been to influence from friends and TV and stuff like that. And they had a way of making things look really cool that it was sort of misleading. You get into it at the beginning, and yeah, sure enough, you know, this is kind of fun, but you don't realize it's a trap. It's like fishing, you know, you put the bait out there, but then you get the hook later on. Because I started out and got into drinking and hanging with the wrong people and stuff like that. And this was back in the late 70s, early 80s. We did a lot of things we shouldn't have, you know, drinking and driving. I mean, you know, that's just as stupid as it can be, but we did it, you know, and I feel that God, even though I had moved away from him, he was keeping an eye on me. He kept me straight. And then about 1981, I was a senior in high school, 17 years old, going to turn 18 right after I graduate. And Dad had an opportunity for an early retirement. And so he took it. But the cost of living in Florida was high. And all our family was here. So he got to looking around, and they found a house up here. And but they were very considerate about it. They rented a house so I could stay and graduate with all my friends and stuff in Florida. Well, me being 18 and the 18-year-old attitude, I thought, I'm not going to Virginia. I want to live here. Really didn't want to do college. So I said, you know, so I got to looking what I could afford on my own. And the more I looked, the worse it looked. I said, well, maybe Virginia's not so bad. You know, at least my family's there, you know. So we packed up, moved to Virginia, and didn't take long to get settled because Dad had already found a house and all that. But Mom and Dad, being the good Christians, we started looking for churches. And we went all over, and I was basically along for the ride, you know, because I had drifted away. But I believe that was God's opportunity to kind of get me straight again. Because as long as I held out with those, and a lot of those people, they weren't bad people. They were mostly good people, and they were my friends. But we were all going down the wrong road together. And God pulled me out of that and got me up here. But it wasn't just a snap of the finger, oh, everything's wonderful. I had to work my way back in. You know, you have to move closer. It's just like not all at once. So they looked around, and they found Bethel. And at the time, I was 18. And my outlook on life and views were a little bit different, So I was there, but I did notice there was a pretty young blonde in Bethel, but it never worked out. I never got in the same circles that she was in or anything, but I figured that's a plus. So then life's moving on, and I found a nice Dodge 4x4. And I know, what in the world does this got to do with anything? But it's part of the story, and I'll try to tie it all together. I've always been more mechanical type person. As an infant, when they got me, they didn't realize that they got damaged goods. I had eye problems from birth. As an infant, I had a couple of operations, and so they were very good parents. I mean, they gave me the opportunity to try sports and stuff like that, but sports just wasn't my thing. I didn't get into it. But if it had a motor on it or it was mechanical, I loved it. So I got into the trucks and all that stuff, and I found this Dodge 4x4. Well, this was in '82. I mean, back then you didn't have the internet. You couldn't go online and order a lift kit and stuff you wanted for your truck. I mean, so I found a local spring shop, and they re-arched the springs, and I got lift. I got 35-inch mud tires. It was nothing like a monster truck, but I was pretty proud of it back then. And the day after I got it, Dad and I were headed to West Virginia. We had some family land out there, and he was concerned about, we went out every so often to make sure people weren't cutting the timber and things like that. And I just wanted to see what the truck would do. And we took off, living in Salem, down 81 to that way, and got just almost to the Christiansburg Mountain, so not far, maybe 8-10 miles. And the right front wheel started shaking violently. I mean, it was all over the place. We pulled over, and whoever did put the tires on, they got the lug nuts cross-threaded. They were stripped, and it broke 2 of the studs, and the other 3 had wobbled so bad they were dangerously close to coming off. So we got over on Route 11, and 10-15 miles an hour, we made it all the way back home. Spent the whole day working on that truck, fixing that stuff, and sitting there, and a friend stops by the house. And back then they had drive-ins for you young guys. You'd take a car and go watch a movie at the drive-in. Well, before I had the lift kit and stuff, even we would occasionally go and just pull in the wrong way and have lawn chairs in the back and sit back and chill and watch movies. And it was pretty decent. And so I don't remember what it was, but it was some good movie that was there. And he'd come over and said, well, why don't we go see the movie? And I said, no. I said, it's been a rough, bad day. And Mom and Dad encouraged me, well, you need to get out and just go relax. So I said, all right, I'll go. And we got all the way up to the gate, and they closed it and said they were full. I said, oh, added to the day, So turned around, and we come out, and I think it was Shenandoah, but whatever road it was sitting there. And then my friend says, hey, there goes my sister and Denise. I didn't know who Denise was, and I just figured he would not be with his sister, so I wasn't trying very hard. He said, let's try to catch up with him. And I got behind him. We got up there, and the stoplight caught him, and they had to stop for the stoplight. So he jumps out and runs up there, and he says, we can go meet him at the Ground Round. Ground Round is kind of a restaurant. It's like a bar restaurant kind of thing, but you could eat peanuts and throw them on the floor. So we went to Ground Round, and did that for a while, and we loaded up in the truck and went, and don't recommend this, rode down and rode around in the Roanoke River for a little while. We had a good time, and by the end of the night, when I had her phone number, and next day I found out, well, whatever movie that was, it was playing at a different drive-in in Benton. And so when I was young, I was very shy. You know, the kids that will hide behind their parents' legs when somebody comes up and stuff like that. That was me. I'm not. And amazing enough, as I've gotten older, and I blame it on my dad mostly, I've gotten much more outgoing. But when I was young, I was not. And so it was amazing that I came away with a phone number. And I called her and said, hey, that movie's playing and all that. And she agreed. We went to the movie. And, I thought, well, shoot, I'm going to make this thing good. Went and got ice cream. It was July or August. It was hot. Back then, a lot of the vehicles, especially trucks, did not come with air conditioning. And, man, that was a mistake, a big mistake. There was ice cream on the steering wheel, all over the seats, the floor cushions, and what was left ended up thrown in the bed of the truck. I mean, I thought, oh, this will be nice. We'll have ice cream cool down. It didn't work out that way. But amazingly enough, even after that, I got another date. So I believe God was part of that because I didn't do well. So after that and continued dating, and on August 10th, 1985, we were married right here in this church. Looked a lot different then. The carpet was red, there was pews, there was a piano, there was an organ, but at the same church. And marriages were a little bit different back then too. We had a nice reception, but it was here at church, right below us down in the fellowship hall. We had cake, mints, and peanuts and punch. That was it, But it worked. We just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. She's hung out with me that long. So life went on. November 17th, 1994. I'm sorry, I got out of order here. August 12th, 1989, our first son, Adam, was born. Normal thing, we do the young married thing, have kids. A few years later, we were pregnant again. She was, but that one didn't go quite as well. We had a miscarriage on that one. Then November 17th, 1994, our son Aaron was born. Life moves on. Then in May 26, 2013, our son Adam got married. So we got our first daughter-in-law. Little different for me. I mean, we grew up, my poor wife, all our pets were males. She had me, the two boys, and I mean, she was very patient with it. And then on April 17th in 2022, Aaron got married. And it's kind of interesting. Our boys are like night and day. You raise them the same, or you think you raise them the same way and do it, but they're both wonderful young men, but they have very different personalities. Well, my daughter-in-laws are the same way. Wonderful young ladies, and it's that God definitely had a part in that, because knowing the way they were and all that, I had an idea in my mind of what they should marry, but they had a different idea in their mind, and what they did was wonderful. I love my daughter-in-laws. I've been blessed tremendously through them. And then after that, like young marrieds do, my oldest, Adam and Kate, they had a baby. So now I'm a granddad, and love that. That's actually a gift from God right there. You hear all the stories, and I've heard them for years, look forward to it, but you don't really get it until you have one. So that's kind of the history of my life. So we just moving on in normal life and all. When we moved to Virginia, I started having headaches, and young and not too bright, I didn't pay much attention to them, ignored them. But later on, after they got a little more intense and stuff, found out I had sinus problems. So dealt with that for years and years and years. I did allergist, I did shots, went to ENT, and then finally the ENT, we got to consider cleaning your sinuses out. So that was a good bit later in life. I was in my 50s by that time, and he went in and I call it roto-rooter, but he cleaned my head out, and it worked. I mean, it helped with the sinus infections, but I still had headaches. I could not figure out, I'm dropping all my pens. I could not figure out why I was keep having headaches. And I would go see one doctor, well, I've done everything, try the other doctor, I did all that. And so I was back to the sinus doctor. And he said, well, really all that's left is an MRI. He says, to see what else is going on in your head. And I said, at this point, I said, well, sure, fine. So it took about a week to get an appointment, and went and did the MRI. And the next day after the MRI, I get a phone call while I'm working. And, he says, hi, this is Dr. So-and-so. I hate to tell you, but you've got a brain tumor. And it was weird because that's not something you want to hear. But in a way, at least I know what the problem is, because not knowing and dealing with the effects of it, because, and something I forgot to mention, the reason I got kind of almost like a little more pushy with the doctors, I was getting more symptoms, a little more trouble thinking, and we've got a it's not really large, but our yard at our house is decent size. And Denise has always been a blessing, and she helps me mow. Put her on the ride mower, and she rides around and all that, and then I'll do the trimming and things like that. Well, several weeks in a row, I would help be out there, we'd be mowing, and I could go 20, maybe 30 yards, and I get really tired. And I'd go lay down in the garage and lay on the cool concrete and lay there for about 10, 15 minutes, and I could get up and do some more. And my mind was messing with me a little bit. It's like, wow, this getting old stuff's hard, because I was late 50s, I thought this part of the aging process. And then it finally got, and then the other thing too, I'm a service tech. I drive a lot from my work. And it was almost every day I'd save my lunch for late afternoon so I could take a nap. I couldn't get home because I found, and then there again, that's God working. I found that, my head would nod sometimes because I cover a large area. My territory is from just below Harrisonburg all the way down to the state line. So I do a lot of driving. And I thought, man, this is not good. I could get hurt, or I could hurt somebody else. You don't want to fall asleep driving. And that's why I put more and more pressure on, and then found out I had the brain tumor. So do all that and go visit, set up an appointment with a surgeon at Carilion. And the other thing is, like every good person in America, you check it out on the internet. And it was weird because when I kept looking from the information, you go on my chart and all that, and they have the notes from the MRI, it kept coming up as a childhood tumor. And I thought, well, I'm definitely doing something wrong, whatever. And went to see the surgeon, and he said, sure enough, yeah, it's a childhood tumor. I'm at that point 59, and and then while searching the internet, you always find these things, suggestions to talk to the doctor. And so when I was in there and we went over all that stuff, and I really liked the surgeon. He made a very, very good impression, very smart man. And but when I asked him how many he had done, he hadn't done any. And then so I was thinking, I want him in my head, that to be the first one. And asked him for a referral and went on. And then I don't know if I forgot or what, but for whatever reason, I called Duke directly. I did all the research. And just so you all know, we're really blessed where we live. You go south a little bit, you have Duke. You go over to the east a little bit, you got Johns Hopkins. You go north, you got UVA. And you go out to the west, you got the Cleveland Clinic. And it's all just a few hours drive any direction. And they're all wonderful facilities. And I did a lot of research. And for that type of tumor, it seemed the Duke kept coming up. So set up an appointment, did all that, and had a few weeks till the appointment. I was working, but something was bothering me. I wasn't comfortable with it. I don't know how or why or exactly how to describe it, but I thought, well, I wonder. A lot of time driving, so you think while you drive, it's like, did I really choose the right place to go for this? And the phone rang, and nowadays all the spam calls, stuff like that. I looked at it, didn't come up with a name. I said, well, I don't know if my first thought was, I'm not answering it. Then I noticed the area code, and the area code was North Carolina. So I answered the phone. And he said, this is Dr. So-and-so. I'm the head of neurology at Duke. And I thought, oh, this can't be good. So I pull over, and he said, I'm calling because you got an appointment with two doctors. I thought that was a little strange, but, whatever. So I talked to him and said, look, I'm new to all this. I said, and I've got a brain tumor as well, so I don't really know if I'm thinking straight, I don't know how to choose. I said, I really don't know what to do. And he said, well, as you can imagine, in my position, I'm not allowed to give advice out. He says, but I can't answer questions. He says, if you were to ask me who I would send a family member to, I could answer that. So I said, okay, well, who would you send a family member to? And he says, well, it's actually one of the doctors that you have an appointment with. He says, you need to go in and cancel the other appointment and do all that. So I did everything he said, but the effect that call had on me, it cleared everything up. And I know that was from God. You think about an organization the size of Duke University, and then you've got that whole huge neurology surgical department. It's not normal for the head of the department to call somebody about a scheduling mishap. That's like several levels below his position. I really believe God did that to comfort me, because the peace I had after that was amazing. So we go on, and then we're scheduled to get there a couple of days before the surgery. They were going to go in and do they go in through the groin and go up through the nerves, and they were going to check the blood flow and then possibly block the blood flow to where the tumor was at, so that when they take the tumor out, it's not a huge mess. Well, when they did that, just so y'all know, I'm not the healthiest eater. Something knocked loose in the veins, and I had a stroke. Not sure that when they do surgery on your brain, the tumor was located on my brain stem, just above the fourth ventricle and into the fourth ventricle here at the back. And I apologize. That's the way the mind works. It just every now and then, my memory goes blank. But if I get a second, it'll come back. Oh yeah, it's not what I wanted to hear. When he told me, had the brain tumor and all the other stuff. But and especially not the stroke, but the thing common between a stroke and the tumor, it does affect your brain. Well, apparently somewhere, I'm not sure which or maybe both, I lost my memory. The doctors say it was probably a blessing, but I do not recall driving to Duke. I don't remember getting there, going in. I don't remember any of my time in the hospital. After I was at Duke for a while, I had to stay there after the surgery for my rehab and ICU and all that. They sent me back to Roanoke for rehab at a community hospital. They put me in an ambulance, sent me up here, went to community for a while, and I didn't start getting my memory back till the first week here. So my whole time at Duke, don't remember a thing. But another thing with the surgery, if we could put the slides up, I'll show you what to go in through the there we go. Keep on going till you get to my bald head. Well, it's only the back of my head was bald. I didn't know for the longest time how they did the surgery, but it's not your typical thing. It's almost like if you were on a motorcycle and you had somebody sitting behind you. They go in through the back of your head here. They actually removed the top disc in my spinal column and made a hole and went up through the back of the head to get to the brainstem. But to do that, you have to move the brain out of the way a little bit, and the body doesn't like your brain being moved around. So that could have been some of it too. So I learned a lot about surgery I didn't know about. But can we keep on scrolling? It just let's see, we're almost there. Oh, well, it's not important. But so they did the surgery, and that was another thing too. MRIs are great, but they don't show everything. When they got in there and got to looking around, not only was the tumor attached to my brainstem, it had grown around a nerve. So, I thought in my mind, and it's funny too, I really wanted that tumor for some reason. I assumed he just put it in a jar and I could take it home. And I want to see what it looked like, I don't know why, but I really wanted that. And turns out, they ended up having to break up the tumor to get it away from the nerve that it had gone around. And this was a cancerous tumor. And I wasn't real thrilled about the free pieces of cancer floating around in my head, but he cleaned it out really well. The only thing that didn't come out was the very bottom of the tumor was attached to the fourth ventricle. And so there's a very, very thin layer of the wall of the tumor still there. So because of that, I had to have radiation. But there again, I was blessed. I did not have to do chemo. When I went back to, they had sent me back to Roanoke, did the whole thing, and give me a chance to heal a little bit. And I started some of my therapy. Went back to Duke again, and Duke has a thing called the Caring House. It's a lot like a Ronald McDonald House. It's just for cancer patients, and really neat setup. It's almost like a hotel, but it's more like a kind of cross between a house and a motel. But you had a nice room and bathroom and all that stuff, and then they had a community kitchen. And as part of that, they had a hallway lined up with lockers, so you could do your own food. And then they had groups that would come in every evening, just about, that would fix a meal for you. We had Boy Scouts one night, several church groups. But I met a lot of wonderful people there, and man, watching what some of the other ones had to go through with the chemo, I was blessed it was just radiation. Radiation messes with you too, but not, I don't think quite as bad. But that was a wonderful place. Felt a lot of God's hand there. Actually had a little pond outside, and the weather was not bad. It was late fall, but Denise and I would spend a lot of our lunches out there. It was very relaxing. It was God provides in a lot of unusual ways, but it was calming. Went through the whole thing with getting it removed, and I don't know where it came from, but I had this thing. My main prayer, of course, pray God heal me, do the other, but I just said, God, send me good people, and that one really paid off. I mean, can you put the pictures back up again with me for the radiation machine? A lot of it I was comfortable with until I went for my first visit for the radiation. Saw the doctor, and they said, well, we have to make a mask for you. And I knew nothing about radiation. And I said, what's the mask for? He says, well, we don't want your head to move. He says, it's got to be very precise where we send this radiation. And that's a huge machine. I mean, that's a big room that thing's in. And it's got these two big arms that you can't really see in the picture that move around that shoot the radiation into your head. But I'm not fond of restriction. And when I realized they were going to clamp my head to that table, I did not like that at all. And somebody, and there again, my memory's not great, somebody here at Bethel had mentioned to me before we go, when you, and this may help some of y'all out, when you go for a procedure and you get in there and you got this big, awful looking equipment around you, pray for the people in the room. Don't be thinking about what's going to happen or the other. God gives you the ability to control your mind, just as you control what you look at or do other things. He gives you the ability to control what you're thinking about. So I made an effort, and I thought about those people, and I prayed for them, and not just pray for them to do a good job so I don't get cook my brain. Pray for them in their lives and their families and stuff like that. And my dad's always been a very friendly kind of person, and I've learned a lot from him. And I would visit with the people, but that first visit, when they were clamping me to that table, I was praying hard for everybody else because, I was not comfortable with that at all. But after a while, I got used to it. And then, believe it or not, I actually look forward to going to those visits. I enjoyed talking to the people, and they treat me really well. That was a God thing because, it's not a normal place you would want to go. But I liked it. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier, too, is when we were in the hospital at Duke, all the trauma to the brain and moving it around, cutting that thing out and everything, you can develop what they call ICU delirium. You sort of freak out. And apparently I did it in a pretty bad way. I was not very nice to a lot of people. I'm sorry. I really did not want to do that, especially Denise. I was a bad patient. I don't know. I'm really not like this. I think it's a brain thing, but I did not like being confined, and I was tired of being in bed. I ripped all the IVs and hoses out and tried to escape several times. So they assigned a nurse. Her job was to make sure I stayed in bed. That didn't work either, and I wanted out. And eventually, it was decided that I was tied to the bed until I got out of there. But in the process, even tied, I would try to get out. And Denise would very lovingly try to, hey, you need to be here, calm down, do this other. And I was very, very mean to her. And it was bad enough she had to leave the room. But the nurses there were amazing. They went out and took care of her and made sure she was okay. And it means a lot because they reminded her that, hey, he's not his normal self. He's, and that they looked after her when I couldn't. And I apologize. I didn't mean to be that way. But I was. And that's the other thing, praying for good people. God put those people there. They took care of her too. And I had a nurse in there, a male nurse named Pete. I don't know, Denise told me his name. But this dude was amazing. He figured out that I needed something to do. He just kind of got me. So he went in the bathroom and come out with a big stack of washcloths and said, okay, Steve, he says, I'm running behind. I need your help. Can you fold these things for me? So I'd fold them all up and give them to him. He'd disappear. Found out he was going back to the bathroom. He'd just mess them all up and carry them back out to me again. But I didn't know, and it kept me active and kept me out of trouble. But unfortunately, he couldn't be there all the time. That's when I would misbehave and do the other stuff. But so did all that. Come back and do my rehab and all the other, and there again, more good people. And I've done rehab at like 3 or 4 different facilities now. Because it's rough. You have to learn things all over again. It's funny when you be 59 and you're proud that you can tie your shoes, but and I'm still not all the way there. My balance has got a little ways to go yet, but I really didn't want to wait till I was 100% and say, oh, look what God has done and all that, because I don't want to forget a lot of the parts that are still fresh on my mind. And God has done amazing things. I'm probably 95%. And I think some of this, I don't know. I think some of it may have been from being tied to the bed. Some of it could be like the nerve damage, because before the surgery, these 2 fingers were numb. And they went and did all the nerve tests. They're thinking carpal tunnel or something of that nature. And they passed here in Roanoke. And then when I was back in rehab here at Carillion, my whole hand is numb, and it stays that way 24/7. It kind of like you have your hand go to sleep and you feel like the little pins and needle kind of thing. It's that way all the time. Then the nerves right here through my shoulder, they're not quite right either. But it's improving. And the doctor told me, the radiation doctor told me, he says, if it's probably nerve damage. He says, if it is, he says, that's one of the slowest things in your body to heal. He says, it'll take years before it gets back to normal. So, and he says, it's so slow you don't notice it. And he wasn't lying. I have to go back and physically think about how it was before, and then I can tell that there's change, but I can't just feel it like when you break your wrist and say, oh yeah, it's feeling better. It's not like that. It's a very long process. But the main thing I wanted to get across to everyone is that God was with me through the whole thing. And I know there's people that's going to say, you just got lucky. You got a good doctor. You did your research. You got a good doctor. You had a good nurse, and things like that. But I could feel a comfort the church praying for me. My Sunday school class, well, we call them connect groups now, but my Sunday school class is amazing. We're a very diverse group of almost old people. A lot of different personalities, but we all get along. And in the church, the different personalities, we accept each other for who they are, and they've been praying for me, and you can feel the prayers. And I want people to understand, and some of it you're going to have to take my word for until you experience something similar yourself. But that's something, because I've heard Hilton talk about it before. You can be a Christian and watch online and do the other, but you're really missing out on a big part of God if you're not here. And not just our church. If you find another one, you do your homework, though. Make sure you find a Bible-believing church. But what you get out of it is unbelievable. And some of it is just downright God. That phone call from the head of the Duke surgery, I can't imagine in my mind, I've been around a lot and been in a lot of different offices, why somebody at that level would take the time to call somebody about an appointment problem. It doesn't make sense. But to me, it makes sense because I needed it in the worst way. I knew I was doing the right thing. So I didn't do this exactly by my notes or anything else, but I want people to understand that there is a God. You can see his stuff all around you. You listen to the world, and they're going to explain it away. A lot of the things I didn't hear, people that did for me, they're going to explain it away. They're going to say, oh, well, you just happened to be there on the day that so-and-so was there, and he took good care of you. Well, there's more to it than that. And when you can feel it, especially to go into a situation like that and have a comfort, I was never really afraid or like that. I was pretty nervous when they strapped me to that table with a mask on my face. But other than that, I had a comfort level through the whole thing. And I don't know anything about medical stuff or stuff like that. It's just because God gave me that comfort. So the two big goals I had is I wanted to share what I went through and what God can do for you. And the other is I want to thank the church. I can't tell you how thankful I am for, and then even afterwards, when I come back, there's people that will come up to me and speak to me and check on me. And the words of encouragement, I've had people in here that have been through similar but different surgeries or completely in the experiences, and whoever it was that told me about, praying for your medical team while you're laying there. The benefit that I received from y'all is tremendous. It just, I don't know how to describe it. It's made a world of difference in my life. So I got a little bit more to go. It's getting there. But where God has taken me already is just amazing. And that's my big thing. Long as people understand there is a God, and he will look out for you. You just have to look for it sometimes. And sometimes if you want God to speak to you, you need to be in the right place. A lot of what, because back to what I said before, you see movies and all that, and some of the stuff you read in the Bible, God appeared to him in a dream and stuff like that. It's not always that way. He's got a lot of different methods. And I know a lot of what was spoken to me through people here was through God. It was his words teaching me how to get through this. And he did get me through it. So I would encourage everyone to look and pay attention and get to know God. And some of it, you hear the old terminology, fire insurance and stuff like that. That is a thing, but the benefit I've got from God just here on earth is tremendous. It's worth it just for that. I mean, but to get the eternal life, I mean, it's just amazing. So I would highly encourage you to do that. And just to mention also, I have no motive other than being thankful to God. I mean, it's not going to make me any better if more people show up to church or any of that stuff. I just want you to understand that it is out there, and it's a good thing, and it is well worth looking into. That and thank you. I can't say that enough. I appreciate what you've done, and a lot of people it continues on. I mean, people still they check on me just about every Sunday, to see how the progress is, and I try to check on some of the other ones that are going through it. And if anybody is got surgery coming up or something like that, I'll share what people have shared with me if I can do it. And keep in mind too, if you don't like what you hear, go to another doctor. I mean, it's just. But I'm going to finish up and let Hilton come up here and close everything out. But I truly, truly thank everyone in here for all that you have helped me with through this whole process. And just one other quick thought. It's just not this process. My entire life, people have helped me in the church. Even smaller things, car problems, how to fix your lawnmower, things. I mean, things you wouldn't think of being God things. It's come from helpful people throughout the church, which, what's the deal with the lawnmower or whatever? Well, it affected my life and how I did and all that. And God knows you have a life that you got to get through and all that stuff. And he will put people there to help you, especially if you're in the right place where you can get it. I'm going to grab my pens. We'll get Hilton up here.